How many people do you know who struggle with their health? Chances are, whether they show it or not, most of the people in your life do. And chances are, you're one of them. Whether you're dealing with anxiety, depression, endometriosis, acne, eczema, autoimmune, thyroid, Lyme, brain fog, fatigue, or any other symptom or condition, you're far from alone. Living with symptoms has become the new normal. So no more guessing games. It's time to get answers. Welcome to the Medical Medium Podcast. I'm Anthony William.
We're talking about protecting yourself from the super flu. That's right, protecting yourself. Because the health industry of today, that's including alternative, holistic, functional, conventional, would rather throw colostrum, collagen, fish oil, peptides, creatine, probiotics right at your super flu. That's right, throw those very things right at your super flu you're suffering from. Meanwhile, those don't do a thing for your super flu or any COVID or any RSV or any what you're thinking is a bad cold. Instead, what you need are antivirals, herbal antivirals, nutrients, antioxidants, critical trace minerals, and healing foods to stop deficiencies, because those super flus, they create deficiencies. Because the industry wants death by 1,000 cuts. They want the super flu to chip away, one cut at a time, and even death by 10 cuts to one cut, where somebody loses their life because of phlegm, congestion, and high fever. And if somebody's got a high fever of 102, 3, 104 or more, and a severe cough and congestion inside the lungs, creatine, peptides, colostrum, what have you, is not going to muster up, and it's not going to cut it by any means. There are tools to heal, and the industry isn't caught up. They're just not. And they're certainly not caught up with restoring from severe deficiencies from these fevers and these coughs, night sweats, brain fog left over, severe adrenal fatigue, and nervous system weaknesses. We don't have to live by or die by these manufactured, engineered viruses that they're releasing out of the gate every single month and every single year. We can do something about it, and we can protect ourselves. Get ready for this episode. Fasten your seatbelts. Strap yourself in. You're going to get an infusion of knowledge. There's a lot of different bugs going around, and right now the super flu is dominating. But it has a close contender, the good old rib-cracking norovirus. You could always count on a good old norovirus to start creeping up right after the super flu starts dying down. But the super flu is not dying down yet. It's still rampant, and it's still raging. It's cycling through a lot of people. As far as the U.S., it hasn't even hit certain states yet, but it's working its way through. And if you haven't gotten the super flu yet, that's a good thing. I'll tell you why. Because it's weaker than it was. Still packs a wallop, but it's weaker. The reason why it's weaker is it went through a lot of people already. It's going through people. It's battling their immune systems. The more immune systems it battles, those human beings' immune systems reshape the super flu, just like COVID-19 was reshaped after it went through millions and millions of people in China. Ground zero, where the virus starts, is where it's the strongest and the most dangerous. When COVID got out of the lab and entered its first person, you better believe that person died within hours. Not days and not weeks, but within hours. And in every person COVID entered shortly after that first person, they died within hours. Until it got through the first 1,000 people, then 10,000 people, then 100,000 people. Did it start to weaken? And the very first COVID patient that entered a hospital in China and exposed every doctor, they died shortly after too, because it was hot off the press. It was hot off the manufacturing and engineering press. Right out of the running gate, right at the get-go, it was lethal. By the time COVID left China, it started to dumb down. It already was challenged by millions of immune systems, and it already started to weaken. But yet it was still strong as it ventured out into other countries and eventually got into the U.S. And when it first hit the U.S., it killed a lot of people. It did. It was still aggressive enough. Now, I know the numbers were skewed. The hospitals weren't prepared. Many were prematurely put on ventilators when they shouldn't have. But regardless of all of this, it still was aggressive enough to cause a lot of trouble. And if you're somebody wondering what I was doing when this was happening, and how do I even have the right to talk about this now, about COVID? Just for the record, I was the only person in health talking about what to do to protect yourself right at the get-go, right at the beginning. When health gurus, health influencers, and podcast doctors didn't even know what a virus was. In fact, didn't even think viruses were alive. And it took COVID to teach them that viruses did exist, because the virus world was brand new to them all, but not to medical medium information. Many years before, I was already branded the virus guy, the Epstein-Barr virus guy, by people in the health movement that only talked about keto diets and paleo diets. So the COVID virus slowly got dumbed down by other people's immune systems. If you were the first to get COVID at the time, you were going to get hit hard. If you were the first person to get COVID, you instantly died. Now keep in mind, they release COVIDs every single year. They manufacture them, they engineer them, they hope they're deadly, but they're not. At least not as deadly as they want them to be. They're problematic, they cause trouble. Many times they hit people pretty hard, but they haven't been able to engineer and manufacture a really strong COVID to at least match the first one. They're in the process of doing so. They're working hard on it behind the scenes at Classified Medical Research and Science World. But they're working really hard to try to perfect their flu viruses, like the Super Flu, like the H3N2 subclade K, the one they released. A manufactured and engineered bug that's going through a lot of people right now, and it's starting to weaken. But don't get me wrong, packs a wallop, creates a lot of mucus like glue, sparks up a fever. Now, if you're somebody that had a flu and you had one recently or last month, and you're like, well, I didn't really have a great big fever. I only coughed a little bit. I wasn't coughing my brains out. You did not have the super flu. You had another flu. There are other flus going around. But it still means you have to be careful, because you can catch a flu, a different flu, and then a month later catch the super flu and get double whammied. Then after you catch the super flu and you're coughing your guts out, you had a bad fever, and now you're coughing for weeks. You could actually get the norovirus, and now you're vomiting your brains out, and you're sick, and you got a fever. Now this is how they want it. They want enough flus going around and cycling through that they're releasing, because every flu is manufactured and engineered, and they hope that somebody runs into one and then runs into another and then runs into another. And they know if you have a weakened immune system, there's a good chance you can catch 2 or 3 a year. And there's a chance you might get one right after the other. Death by 1,000 cuts. That's how the industry works. It's always worked this way. But Classified Medical Research and Science really, really worships death by 1,000 cuts. They even worship death by 10 cuts. And their greatest wish is death by 1 cut. That means they eventually manufacture and engineer a deadly, deadly flu, where once you get it, you're gone. Death by 1 cut. That's their true goal. Believe you me, that is what they want. On another note, if you caught the flu or super flu or COVID or norovirus, make sure you get yourself a Medical Medium Brain Saver Protocols book. You can download it right off of Amazon.com so easily and get the most advanced protocols for strengthening the immune system and battling flu, COVID, or if you think you got a cold, which is really a mild flu. The protocols are simple, they're advanced, but yet comprehensive information. You'll see a list of the right herbs and dosages, even for children, and they work. So let's get back to it. Now, the death by 1,000 cuts is a scale. It's a scale that can range from death by any cuts within that death by 1,000 cuts. One person can get the super flu. It weakens their immune system, breaks them down, beats up their adrenals pretty bad, so they're weakened for months. Lowers their immune system so much that Epstein-Barr and cytomegalovirus and herpes simplex 1 and shingles is starting to evolve from deep within the liver or other places it's been hiding or dormant. And then just when they're past that flu, they're done with their coughing attacks. After 6 weeks later, they're on to another flu. Or an Epstein-Barr virus comes out and now they got long flu or long COVID, which is Epstein-Barr, causing brain fog and chronic fatigue syndrome. This is death by 1,000 cuts. Year after year, somebody could be going through this. But death by 1,000 cuts from the industry standard can range by death by 10 cuts or death by 1 cut. In certain situations or certain cases, one child can get the super flu and recover after a really long fever and a high fever and a tremendous amount of mucus production. And then every so often, one child will die from the super flu. Child that wasn't even compromised or known to be compromised with a health condition or health problem. Combination of the fever being too high or too much mucus production, the inability to breathe because mucus gets trapped and air can't get in. And then the devastating loss of a child because of the flu. But that's the thing. The devastating loss of that child isn't really because of the flu. Instead, it's because that child was murdered by an industry, murdered by classified medical research and science, who manufactured and engineered that flu to purposely do this. But we're not supposed to see it this way. We're not allowed to see it this way. But the sick and devastating part of it all is that's the reality of it. That's what really happened. The loss of many children because of a flu that was let out of the gate, that was purposely put out there, purposely created to purposely affect people's lives and even destroy people's lives. But that's the way the industry works. Not everything is fixed in the world. Not everything is perfect in the world. And not every conspiracy is found out yet in the world. Not every evildoer is called out in this world. And not every agency has been called out in this world. Things aren't really that cleaned up. And everything is about money in this world. Everything. It's all about money. And the old expression of killing 2 birds with 1 stone truly defines the super flu. It truly defines what they do and why. Because the ones that don't die from the super flu and don't die quickly from the super flu still need medical attention because of the super flu. And when COVID, super flu, norovirus, different flus all go around, they beat people's immune systems down. They weaken people over time so that the Epstein-Barr and the CMV and the shingles and the simplex 1 and 2 and HHV6 and HHV7 and many of the HHs that have never even been talked about or discovered yet, HHV10 through 16, and their variables and their mutations and their different strains, take advantage of people while they're beaten down by these super flus. And then autoimmune doubles and eventually triples, cancer increases, and many industries make bank because of it. Because it's all about making bank, which is 1 bird, and then death, which is 2 birds. 1 stone killing 2 birds. It's the name of the game of the industry. So it's important to get wise to the system, wise to their design, wise to their treachery, their goals, the game. It's important to be on it, to be wise, to be an expert, to know what's going on. But the system conditions everybody, and they want people to believe, oh, just another cold going around. Okay, it's a bad flu season. But to not have a clue as to what any of that means. A, there is no colds anymore. They're all flus. Colds are gone. B, it's a manufactured, engineered virus released to make people's lives miserable or people's lives hell or the unthinkable, the loss of life. But people don't have the time to actually think about these things either. That's another design on this planet. People often get too busy in a stressful way, and not because they want to really, but because they have to. It's survival. So when a flu hits and it comes into the house, it's just seen as, oh, everybody's got the flu. And when an elderly person dies from the flu in the household, or a child dies from the flu in the household, it's just seen as a fluke, a flu complication, a mysterious reaction to the flu, an inflammatory response that went wrong. not what it really is. A hierarchy. People that are not in the public eye, who have more money than the most rich person known publicly on the planet. A sinister hierarchy that pulls the strings behind the scenes, politically, pharmaceutically, medically, and chemical giantly. It's the ones at the top, the unknown top, that have the labs working, that have the engineering and the manufacturing of bugs, the viral explosion, and even bacterial explosion. Because in the end, it's the card they can most count on. Bugs virtually create almost all manners of chronic illness, and sicknesses from bugs require lots of drugs. But it's more than that. These are the same people of the hierarchy that create the chemtrails, that are responsible for the chemtrails that never stop, regardless of whatever state in the United States says they can't do it anymore because a bill is passed. The people of the chemtrails and the people behind the manufactured engineered viruses like the Super Flu and COVID are the people that pull the true strings, the people that slow down any progress of something that seems to be going really good, but then everybody's wondering, what is the slowdown? Because the illumination, they have power, and they're behind the bugs. And they're responsible for the death of little children from the super flu. And moms are not supposed to know this worldwide. They're not supposed to think anything of it. They're just supposed to think it's a freak thing, a freak tragedy, and it was just a bad flu. Meanwhile, these flu bugs are put into flu shots, pumped into people, and spread around the world in hopes to do the most damage possible. And it's just a start. But before we move on, learn how to protect yourself. You can go to Amazon.com and get the Medical Medium Brain Saver Protocols book, the most advanced flu and COVID protocols for adults and children. Just download it. You'll have it in minutes. It's not an expensive program. It's not a course. It's literally information to how to care for yourself, build up your immune system, and battle the flu, COVID, or what people think is a cold. It's simply a book, and you can go to the library and take it out for free. The super flu puts a lot of stress on the adrenal glands, so it's critical to provide your adrenal glands of what they need. A lot of people feel like they have no energy after the flu, especially the super flu. They can feel beaten down and tired for months after they've had the flu. One of the reasons for this is because the adrenals took a big hit when they had the flu. The flu is hard on the kidneys and the adrenal glands, and fevers are even harder on the adrenal glands. Adrenal glands cook real easy. A fever of any kind puts a lot of stress on adrenal glands. They can't take the heat, so they need lots of recovery time after the flu. And that's why being hydrated while you have the flu is critical, and being hydrated after the flu. Adrenal glands need electrolytes and lots of glucose. But what the adrenal glands don't need is a high-fat diet. High saturated fats especially. Even plant fats are too much on adrenal glands when they're really weakened after the flu. So if someone just got over the flu and they took it pretty hard and there was a lot of fever, a lot of mucus, a lot of coughing, and many days of a high fever, the last thing they should be doing is animal products of any kind, or animal meat, or animal-based. Because any fats, saturated fats, overt fats, cause a great burden on the adrenal glands and on the kidneys. So people have a really slow recovery after a bad flu if they're doing lots of fats after their flu. But fruit is a better way to recover the adrenals after a bad flu, eating a diet high in fruit. Berries, apples, oranges, grapefruit, melons, papayas, even bananas are critical for an adrenal recovery after the H3N2 or COVID or a norovirus or an RSV. Steamed potatoes of all kinds are also a recovery food for the adrenals. Steamed green peas help bring adrenals back as well. And often women lose their hair after a bad flu and fever. A month later, hair's falling out of their head in the shower and it's in the drain. This is very common because the adrenal glands took a huge hit from being sick, and green peas help to restore the adrenal glands. Sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, winter squash, green peas, homemade vegetable broth, Or even better, medical medium healing broth and lots of fruit. Strawberries, blackberries, raspberries, juicy fruits like melons, honeydew melon, cantaloupe, mangoes, papayas, even frozen mango, water with lemon squeezed in the water, and lots of celery juice are powerful foods and juices to bring the adrenals back after a bad flu. The hydration, the glucose, and the electrolytes needed. The super flu creates deficiencies, unlike anything anybody even realizes. It's a deficiency creator. The amount of reserves somebody's body has to throw out a super flu is beyond anybody's imagination. Virtually every nutrient that's ever been stored in any organ, especially the liver, is thrown at the super flu. A fever alone can create a deficiency. A fever for more than an hour can create a deficiency, never mind 5 days or 7 days. And then the cough that repeatedly happens along with the phlegm and congestion. All of this requires minerals and trace minerals from deep within the body. Antioxidants, vitamin C from deep within the body, especially B12 and zinc. Zinc and B12 get eaten up by having any kind of flu or COVID. And the super flu burns through zinc and B12 quickly in the body, meaning B12 is being eaten up by every single cell in the body because it needs it to fight the super flu. And zinc is being eaten up all through the body in every cell in order to fight the super flu. And cells of the immune system, immune cells, require B12 and zinc for survival and for energy. So these immune cells can battle the flu. Zinc is critical for the flu because it minimizes a cytokine storm or a reaction to a bad flu, especially in H3N2 or a COVID. Zinc reserves go away fast, and most people don't have any zinc reserves. Very little zinc is in people's bodies. And after somebody was sick and they had a fever and they're coughing, and now they don't feel good, they have brain fog, they feel weak, they have fatigue, they end up going to the doctor and getting their blood drawn. During the process of getting their blood drawn, their deficiencies get worse. So the process of getting sick, already having some deficiencies beforehand, getting a really bad fever, having the phlegm, the congestion, the cough, getting the leftover adrenal fatigue, and then having the post-flu symptoms, then boom, major deficiencies are occurring. And recovery takes a lot longer, and susceptibilities occur. Susceptibilities to cancer, susceptibilities to other viruses creating cancer in the body, susceptibilities for an autoimmune condition to occur, like an Epstein-Barr virus getting out of hand and coming out of dormancy. And that's why it's critical to protect yourself and have the knowledge and learn the information you need to know. Because it's not just as simple as you caught a cold and the cold is gone. Instead, a lot has been taken from you and it's time to restore and replenish before the next one comes around. Because part of the death by 1,000 cuts is the deficiencies that occur and the adrenal weaknesses that occur after you get hit with the flu. Because before you can even restore enough or clean up those deficiencies or clear them up, another flu hits or another supposedly cold hits or you come down with it. And death by 1,000 cuts is one cut at a time. One flu, one cold, one flu, one COVID. And you're never restoring yourself, never bringing your B12 reserves back into the cells, the nerve cells to protect your nervous system. Zinc reserves never come back, if they even were there to begin with. Glycogen glucose reserves drop down in all the organs like the liver and the brain. Neurotransmitters get eaten up by the fevers, even a small fever, and it sets the stage for a future Epstein-Barr or a future strep. And this is how the system chips away at us. But we can protect ourselves. Just learning about the medical medium zinc shock therapy and the medical medium shock therapies alone is powerful. Stopping the flu in its tracks, stopping the super flu in its tracks. When you get a chance, go to Amazon.com. Get the Medical Medium Brain Saver Protocols book. Just download it right there. Have the flu and cold and COVID protocols in your hands. The shock therapies. Knowing the right herbs, the right antivirals to use. Knowing dosages for adults and children. That's why it's there. It's there for these super flus. Take advantage of it. It's easy. Another critical way to restore when you've had deficiencies because of the flu: adrenal deficiencies, liver nutrient deficiencies, neurotransmitter chemical deficiencies, and immune cell deficiencies, along with trace mineral deficiencies, is bringing leafy greens in. So if you're somebody that got through a flu, the super flu, or you think you just had a bad cold, it's time to bring in some leafy greens and leafy green herbs. Lots of fresh cilantro, fresh parsley. Place them in soups if you'd like, eating them fresh on salads. But you shouldn't be eating any dairy products after the flu or during the flu. No cheese, no butter, no milk, and no eggs. These foods can feed a flu virus, but also add congestion to congestion you're already dealing with. Instead, having salads with fresh fruit on them, or tomato cucumber salads with orange squeezed on them and raw honey. Chopping up some parsley and some leafy green cilantro. Lettuce is also powerful for bringing back trace minerals critically needed when someone is deficient after having the flu. Spinach is also a powerful packed nutrient-based leafy green, critical for restoration, for the adrenals, for the nervous system, to help restore from post-fevers and fevers that were happening during the flu. Often people who have a flu or the COVID or any kind of flu bug sweat a lot, including having night sweats. Even after fevers are broken, these night sweats create a lot of deficiencies, and leafy greens are critical to restore. Green leaf lettuce, green leaf kale, red leaf lettuce, spinach, lettuce mixes, parsley, cilantro are important leafy greens for restoring. If you're somebody that's animal-based, if you're eating animal products, it's best to withhold those animal products while you're suffering through a flu or a fever. If you're somebody that's plant-based or vegan and you're suffering through a flu or a fever, it's best to hold off nuts, seeds, nut butters, oils, and even avocado. If you're somebody that's vegetarian and you're suffering through a flu or a fever, it's best to avoid eggs and dairy products. And avoiding gluten is important before a flu, especially during a flu, and right after a flu. Avoiding chocolate is critical during a flu and after a flu. Chocolate lowers the immune system, allowing a flu to take advantage and gain strength. There are many supplements that should be avoided when you have the flu or after the flu. Colostrum should be avoided at all costs. Colostrum actually feeds the H3N2 or COVID or any flu. Creatine and collagen should also be avoided. They aren't antiviral and they do nothing to support a person who's sick. But what somebody does need are antivirals, something the health industry, influencers, podcast doctors, and health gurus never knew. They never knew this before COVID, and when they did start learning about it because of COVID, they've already forgotten it, because antivirals are not even talked about these days. You'll hear about vitamin C, but in the end, you get stuck with a flu, and they're throwing collagen, colostrum, still fish oils now, vitamin A, and probiotics at you. But what you really need to know are what herbs, nutrients, antioxidants, and trace minerals to use to battle the superflu and restore yourself. How to use these, what kind of dosages you need, and what kind of protocols, including hydration and foods and juices. Hopefully you enjoy this episode and you're learning how to protect yourself from the superflu and other viruses. For more information, check out medicalmedium.com. Free information, no paywalls, no subscription fees, free recipes, free downloads, knowledge to arm yourself and protect yourself. Check out the Medical Medium Brain Saver Protocols book, Protocols on Chronic Illness, Cold, Flu, and COVID too. You can find me on YouTube, Telegram, Instagram, TikTok, and other places. And you can get the Medical Medium book series free at the library. Take care of yourself. Know that God loves you. Many blessings, and God bless you. Yeah, no, I'm here to see the doctor. Yeah, I know. It's a super flu that's going around. I think I have it. You too? You think you have it too? Yeah, well, the thing, he's a functional medicine doctor too, right? He's a chiropractor? No, he's a MD. He's some kind of functional medicine doctor, though. He's like an expert. He gave me colostrum. He gave me collagen, the new fish oil. He gave me peptides. He offered me a new type of creatine. Yeah, I'm just still sick, and I just got to see him again. I think he's going to probably have to give me an antibiotic. Yeah, no, I know. This thing's been beating me down. I got fever. You too? Yep. Oh, don't sneeze on me. No, well, I guess it doesn't matter. You probably have the Super Flu too, and I got the Super Flu. Yeah, and he told me to do a high meat diet, because, the high meat diets now, the animal-based high meat diets. Yeah, he told me to mix it with some fruit. That was good, but I don't know. It's just mixing all that meat. He told me to steer away from some vegetables, like don't do vegetables, just a little bit. I said mainly just bone broth and lots of meat, and more bone broth and lots of meat. Yeah. Anyway, the nurse is coming. I think that's me next. Okay. I hope you feel better. You too. Everybody knows somebody who has the flu right now. Everybody knows somebody who's sick. Coughing, phlegm in their chest, congestion in their sinuses, sore throats, fevers, just misery, absolute misery. The sick part, the real sick part, is it doesn't have to happen. It just doesn't have to happen. But it does, and the real crazy thing is we're paying for it. Everyone is, globally. There's no way that the trillionaire elitists, the people who pull the strings, who puppeteer all the different labs, medical research and science, classified medical research and science, there's no way they'll spend a penny of their own money or $1 of their own money, because they love the fact that it even is sicker knowing that we're paying for this flu to even be out here now, that the people are, that everybody is globally. And that's just the way it works. The flu would be abolished. It wouldn't exist. COVID would be abolished. It wouldn't exist. It would evaporate into the air once it ran its course around the world through people, never to show its face ever again. But they keep on bringing it back more than once a year. They load it up into the flu shots, a live virus, preserved and fed so it's fat and happy. And then they recommend to give those flu shots to children and adults, of course, and the elderly. And each batch, they got a new breed of virus that they made in the labs to spread around the world. They're eventually going to get a winning ticket, one more powerful than this super flu and one way more powerful than the COVID. It's just a matter of a lucky break in the lab, a lab technician doing his job just right, and the birth of a mutated strain that makes everything we've seen so far look like a joke. That's right, a joke. And just like this one, which is annoying, infectious, and problematic, it's a far cry for what's to come. But that's okay, because you have the tools and the knowledge to fight it, the wisdom to support your immune system, and inner strength and inner knowing. No bug is going to take you out. You're a brick wall to those bugs. Stop them in their tracks, because you know. Many blessings, and God bless you.
Original published medical medium information gets stolen and poached by podcast doctors, social media doctors, influencers, and medical clinics. Medical medium information has never yet been proven wrong by medical science and research. Instead, the opposite, only proven right and then taken from medical medium published material and used in the conventional and alternative health communities. Medical medium information continually sets the stage for medical science to understand chronic illness better. If you choose to share or use the original, unique content from the Medical Medium podcast, books, or Medical Medium social media, please cite where this information comes from, so others who see and learn of this information have a chance to know where it all originates, to give them an opportunity to heal, so they don't end up losing years of their life searching for answers like so many have before them. The Medical Medium information here on this podcast doesn't come from broken science, interest groups, medical funding with strings attached, botched research, lobbyists, internal kickbacks, prescription persuaded belief systems, private panels of influencers, health field payoffs, trendy traps, or gathered bits and pieces of gimmicky confusion. Because chronic illness is exploding like never before in our modern day history, it takes a greater force than us down here. It takes a helping hand from above. Medical medium information has street cred. It's an organic movement of countless people around the world healing. More healing stories of real people not being paid to tell their life-changing experiences of rising out of the ashes of sickness and entering into the light of full recovery, getting their lives back and finally healing when nothing else in the world of health could move the needle and get them better. The information on this podcast is not man-made. It comes from above, from a higher source. Whatever you believe in, whether God, the universe, the light, or the creator, or if you believe in nothing at all, that we're just floating through space together on this rock. Know that the information you hear on this podcast is separate from all the other noise out there. It comes from a different place, a pure, untampered with, advanced, clean, uncorrupted, original, primary source, a higher source, spirit of compassion.